All right, well, we're going to dive right into today's episode. We have Greg Garza and Mike Parkhurst, founders of Beyond Goals Mentoring, both formerly played in the MLS and are both all-stars. They played for a combined over 25 years in the league, and today they help a wide range of clients navigate through the various chapters in their careers. We're super excited to have you guys on. I noted this in our kind of preliminary combo, but this is our first remote interview, and we're just both, Nico and I, looking forward to diving into what you guys are doing now and kind of hearing a little bit of how you got to where you both are today. So Nico, I'll let you kind of kick things off.
Greg and Mike, thanks again for hopping on. We're super pumped to have you share your story. So we'll kind of kick things off, right, with Atlanta changed MLS culture. You guys were on the team that sold out every single game in their inaugural season. What are some of your best memories from your playing career in Atlanta? We asked our followers on IG for a couple of extra questions and had a couple. And we kind of wanted to know what your favorite memories were playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I'll say, everyone usually tells you to expect the unexpected, right? I think for all of us that signed on to Atlanta United's project in the very beginning had absolutely no idea it was going to be as massive as it was. I even say before the Mercedes-Benz, but even just playing in the Bobby Dodd, playing at Georgia Tech Stadium and realizing that something great was being created from the very first game against the Red Bull. I believe it was in March, if I'm not mistaken. But I think for all of us, just experiencing that, coming from all over different places of the world, culture shocks taking place within the locker room, but just understanding the response and I guess the weight of Atlanteans to have their first major MLS team was something a lot bigger than all of us put together.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on, and thanks for having us on. We're happy and excited to be here with you guys today. And yeah, it was, for me, I started in New England in 2005. And so I kind of saw MLS kind of 1.0 to MLS 3.0. And I think, Austin, LAFC, now even St. Louis have even taken it maybe to 4.0. But yeah, I do think that kind of Atlanta was, one of those organizations and cultures that kind of really put MLS to another gear and shifted the way MLS teams do even business with getting the young South Americans and developing them and then selling them on for big profits. But I think that probably I think the best memory has got to be MLS Cup 2018. Probably the best environment that I've ever played in front of. And, that's including national team games and Champions League and Olympics and things like that. So it was unbelievable atmosphere. Obviously we had a good performance and won the trophy. So that was a day that for sure we'll always remember.
Yeah, we're excited that the program's been super successful. We ran the hockey team out of town. So we're glad to see that soccer's sticking around and has made its mark there in Atlanta. A lot of guys, when they make the transition from their playing careers to, life after that, it can be a lot and it can be, some say difficult to navigate. But when y'all ultimately made the decision to retire from the game, what ultimately led to the decision to then start the Beyond Goals mentoring program?
I think a little similar to you all's story and ATX and kind of why you guys started this podcast, as far as trying to reach as many youth athletes as possible. We experience things throughout our career, and especially later on in our career, where we played with a lot of younger players and, kind of could see what made a good rookie, who went on to be successful, why were some of these younger players that were really highly touted not being successful, not getting second contracts, right? That combined with now all these MLS academies are up and running and being very successful, and all the pressure that these players are now under year after year to make a team, to stay on the team, not get cut. What happens if you get cut? Where are you going to play, right? College scholarships. Should I go pro? How quickly can I turn pro? Like all this individualized training, right? There's so much, and a lot of it is awesome, right? There's so many opportunities for younger players today in all sports, which is fantastic. But with that comes a lot more pressure for sure. Pressure from themselves, from parents, from coaches, from extended family and friends. And so there's just to navigate for young athletes today. And, when we go and talk with young athletes and we ask them, what percentage of the game do you think is mental? Sometimes we hear answers like 90%, 80%, all the time. It's at least above 30 or 40%, right? Yet, we don't think that it's really being attended to at that percentage at all, or if at all, by these clubs. And so it's a major factor, and we're just trying to lend our experience, right? We're not doctors, we don't have PhDs, but we do have the experience of what it takes to get to the highest level, to have success at the highest level. And we think a lot of those things that made us successful also help make anyone successful, right? Our message isn't just for the players that want to turn pro, right? It's for the players that want to play high school, that want to try and play in college, that want to be successful in whatever they do after sport. So, that's kind of why we started it and what we're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I feel like, what was it, before COVID, maybe right at the peak of COVID, just all the universities that the players were, unfortunately passing away due to suicide. And a lot of it, there were a lot of college athletes that were soccer players, not just soccer specifically, but when you talk about the mental toll that the game and like the internal pressure that athletes put on themselves to perform, it can be a lot. So I commend you guys on kind of filling this void and filling the gap. I think that it's super important. And to your point, Mike, I think that more universities, more programs should have a mental health advocate or someone that they can go to, because in this era of social media too, it doesn't make things better.
It's a different beast, different aspect to things that we obviously didn't have to go through as young players, but it's a definite factor in young players' lives today. And it can be a great tool, but it can also be really damaging as well, of course.
There's actually some aspects that we'll talk about later when it comes to social media and stuff like that. One of the kind of, refocusing back on, the why behind Beyond Goals mentoring. What are some of the other gaps that you see in U.S. soccer today? And how is Beyond Goals mentoring going to start to change the game from the mental aspect?
Mike and I are very fortunate to say that we had a lot of people that were in our corner throughout our whole entire careers to kind of help us navigate each and every phase of whatever that may have been. Whether it be the biggest injury that I had in my career, whether it be a failed attempt to go on trial somewhere else, whether it be just improving my body language on the field, or somebody telling me what needed to be better to gain better components and add and implement better components within my game. I think I was very fortunate within every phase of my career to have someone to give me that guidance. And I think in today's world, you see within youth soccer, in my personal opinion, it can't always be just the parents. It can't always be just the coaches. A coach can really collectively speak to everyone on the team, but it's probably the wrong thing to do when you individualize it within their shoes, right? You have to take care of 25, 30 players all at once, and you're not able to really create those bonds or those relationships or have those intimate conversations about what's best for that each and every individual. And I believe that what we offer with Beyond Goals mentoring is a way to provide a big brother companionship in each and every player's pathway, and be someone that they can relate to, someone that they can look up to, and also someone who can provide specific and particular experiences that we went through that they can say, okay, well, this guy went through that, he did that, and he was still able to create some sustainability within his successful career. And how can I use that within whatever I go through as well? And we throw a lot of different information at every single player that we speak to, whatever age they are. At the end of the day, we don't want them to grab onto every single piece of information that we throw at them. But as long as there are things that they can really hold on to and say, okay, this will help me at a certain point or certain phase within whatever I go through in my life, then that's what it's all about. I think at the end of the day, Mike and I, we personally know that the percentage of a kid becoming professional is a very, very, very small one, right? But all of these other vital and key components that we are teaching these kids and speaking about, kind of piggybacking off of what Mike said, is that hopefully it will make them successful in whatever they do, whether they become a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, in whatever aspect that they're or environment that they're working in. I can guarantee you they'll be in a team environment, right? It's just like you guys are a team, and things that you learned within being within a team will probably make you successful with whatever team you work with in the future. So I think sports provides such a huge asset and quality to a lot of these players that, I think maybe us as this youth soccer nation that we are, that is growing, right? It's $1 billion sport that we live in right now. But I think there are key components that need to be thrown within the mental aspect of it, and helping these kids understand that it's not necessarily making it professionally, but understanding the things that they're learning from that sport that will help them individually in the long run.
Greg, you mentioned some of your mentors. Do you mind speaking to maybe one or two of your mentors and maybe the kind of key either like theme or the transferable skills? I mean, y'all keep saying, which I completely agree with, that like whether you're playing an actual sport on a team or you're in your 9-to-5 IT job, you're on a team. So what transferable skills did your mentors, instill in you?
Most definitely. I think just knowing your role in every team and environment that you play in, how to use the best of your assets and your qualities and your strengths. That's something that was really instilled within me from a very young age. I think if I were to look back at my personal career, and even when I was a very young player, I was always the smallest player. I was never the fastest. I was quick, but I was never the fastest. And so you look at what the formula is for most successful American players at that age, whether they're 12 through the age of 15, 16, it's probably strength, size, and speed that coaches look for. And I had none of those. I had a great technical ability. I could do anything and everything I wanted with the ball. And my vision and IQ was probably much more advanced. And I think mentors really helped me understand, okay, focus on those things will get you a lot further in the long run, in terms of development and creating those opportunities for yourself in the future. And I think that's just one great example that we try and instill and embed within these kids' minds, is that us as players and us as humans, we're most likely to always look towards the negatives. We're most likely to look towards the things that are our weaknesses within the game, and we're consistently focusing on what can we be better at, rather than focusing on what am I already good at and how can I use that consistently.
We were talking again before the podcast today, before we started rolling, and you guys have kind of added on an additional asset with your interviews that y'all are putting on YouTube. So be sure to follow. I'll give you guys time to plug at the end. But congrats on that. I think that that's just super important. And obviously in the social media, again, era that we live in, it's very readily accessible, which is great. And I think that fans enjoy hearing from not only you two, but the people that, y'all have kept in your inner circle and respect as mentors. I was watching a couple of them, maybe the first one or two that y'all uploaded, and y'all were talking about the importance of versatility. Why do you believe versatility is such an important trait to possess?
Yeah, we deal with a lot of kids who are asked to change positions, who go to a new team and a new coach plays them at a new position. And that can be difficult, right? There's the aspect of, no, I want to prove myself that like this is my position, not what you think is the best position for me, but this is what I've always played and this is what I want to play. This is what I'm best at. Versus, understanding that, okay, how do I use my strengths at this new position to have success? And, looking at it with a growth mindset of like, okay, this is a new opportunity for me, rather than, I'll do it for a little bit until I can get to my normal position. And we were speaking with Julian Gressel, who came to the league as, I don't even know. He played striker in college. He played wing for Atlanta United. He played a number 8. He's an outside back. He's played all over the place. And a lot of people, say, if you're very skilled at a multiple positions, you don't master one, right? But his versatility is the main reason why he's played so many games in MLS, right? If he wasn't versatile in Atlanta United, he wouldn't have been on the field so much, right? Atlanta United was spending millions of dollars on foreign attacking talent. And yet Julian, drafted out of college, I think played the most games for Atlanta United over the first 4 years, right? And that was because of his versatility, right? He was playing all over the field. And so a lot of that is just the mental side of like, okay, how do I adjust in this new position? All right, what strengths can I bring to it? And just going all in on it and knowing like, okay, this is better for my career than it is just being able to focus on this one position. Greg's a good example as well. I'll let him tell it, right? But I had the experience as well where I was a center back all my career pretty much. And then I went to Europe 5 years into my pro career, and they wanted me to play outside back. And I fought it at first because I was like, no, I want to prove myself as a center back. And I fought it a little bit. And then 6 months later, they kind of forced it again. And I actually went all in at that point, and I loved it. I had great success at the team level, brought us to Champions League. I got back with the national team, played outside back, and it really was great for my career. And so I look back and think how silly I was to not, be bought in from day one as an outside back. And I know Greg's got a good example as well.
Yeah, for me personally, my whole entire youth career I was very fortunate to play every single age group within the youth national teams from the age of about 12, 13, and went all the way up to through every single rank. But I think probably up until about under 20s, I played center mid and left wing, and that was my main and perfect position in my mind. But I think becoming a pro quite young and having the opportunity, like Parky said, having the opportunity to get on the field and getting thrown at left back. And I tell a lot of kids that we work with, I was very fortunate to make a long career within playing left back. And was I still able to implement some of the things that I used within playing center mid and left wing? Of course, but I was able to kind of make a staple within that one position. And at the time, I looked at it as, okay, this is one position that's always very much needed in today's game, right? There's not too many great left backs that you can find, and teams are always in the need of it. So how could I make the most of that opportunity? And I was able to do so.
When you guys start to play different positions, right, you can end up playing next to a guy that may not speak English, right? Maybe that experience carried over into Europe, or even with some of the players on Atlanta United because they're coming from South America. So with your experience, are you guys starting to learn the language of your teammates and being able to speak with them in little bits and phrases on the field? Or what does that kind of look like as you start to adapt to some of your teammates with different languages?
I'll take that one. Just because I'm trilingual, and I think that I should have been paid more at Atlanta United for being the main translator for the team, just as much as the player. But I think you look at every environment and every place that you play, and I think, like I said from the very beginning, you guys said, what are things that mentors pass down to us, and I answered in knowing your role. And that was one of my main roles within Atlanta United. It was creating, a locker room to gel together. It was creating an environment for everybody to feel comfortable with one another. And one of my main roles on that team was to be a translator, was to help everyone be on the same page, understand each other, and create that camaraderie within the locker room that was so important to all of us. I believe we had probably over 10 languages, spoken within that locker room at that time. But we all had the ability to, soccer is a universal language, but the language component does play a huge factor in regards to everyone being on the same page. And having a head coach that does not speak a lick of English from the very get-go, and having a lot of players that's also spoke different languages. But I think that was one of my main roles, and how I could be that great teammate, to the team was in terms of helping everyone understand each other and be on the same page. And that was a vital piece. I think not necessarily to our success, but more so just to creating that great team environment.
Yeah, I think that's another value of the versatility of playing different positions is you understand what that teammate next to you is going through and how to help them, right? If you've been in those shoes before. So even if you can't speak the same language, right, you can still communicate a lot through the details of the game, like how hard you pass a ball to the other guy, what foot you play it to him, right? You're communicating to him if he's got time to take a touch or without saying a word. But I'll communicator out there on the field. Right. So there's ways to communicate even if you can't speak the same language. But it's one of my biggest regrets of not being able to speak a second language. And I highly encourage all youth athletes, or anybody in general. I'm trying to teach my kids Spanish right now, right? And it's like so valuable.
Yeah. And body language too. I know you mentioned that earlier, Greg. I'm sure is something that's helpful too. Like if you see a guy kind of after a game or missing a shot, kind of, and just knowing like, do I go to him? Do I kind of let him just, be in his feels for a minute?
Most definitely. I think body language is huge, and it's such a major aspect that we touch base on with every single one of our players that we speak to today. We really focus. We can always give the one example of we have a particular player that had the chance to go, hopefully has the chance to go to a top college. But unfortunately, whenever we were mentoring him and going over video analysis and seeing how bad and how disappointing his body language was after every mistake he made, after every mistake, a teammate made, whatever it may have been, could have been a huge turnoff to the scouting program or to the school that he was trying to get into. So those are things that, mom and dad can always say, but having someone that has been there, done that, and pointing out and teaching them a lesson, is another. And, after speaking with this player for a few months and showing him over and over and teaching him these particular lessons, then you're able to see those next games that he plays and just a night and day difference of how he was able to carry himself on the field, and those little details, right? We speak about what separates an elite player from just an average player, and in my opinion, it's all in the details. It's all in the details of how that player carries himself on the field, how he's uplifting with others. Not only just the talent, the God-given talent that he has at his feet, but what's his personality, what's his character, all of these different things that separate and differentiate that player from the rest is vitally important.
I was watching a podcast recently with a sports psychologist, and she said something that was so simple but like mind-blowing. She was like, with a lot of her clients, she saw they would be getting worked up over something or not getting enough playing time or whatever, and then creating this narrative in their head. And she was like, just let A equal A, not A equal B, because like you think A equals, oh, I'm not getting playing time because my coach doesn't like me, or, oh, I'm not getting playing time because I missed that shot or whatever earlier in the game. No, just let like A equal A. And then you would avoid so much like probably mental mind games that you're playing with yourself, and just like, like y'all been alluding to this whole time, just getting out there and doing what you do best. Just stay in your lane, know your role, and don't, get in your feels. Well, obviously I've been doing my research, and you guys had a former teammate from Atlanta United on, John Gallagher. And I was listening to it actually this morning. How important is it to y'all? I mean, obviously doing what you do now, but just in life, maintaining friendships, whether that be with former teammates or just in your personal lives? Yeah,
it's one of the beauties of playing sports is the friendships that we've made and the people all over the world that we're still connected with. And when you're on a team, and that's why we say there's so many benefits to sport outside of like just making it pro, right? And one of those huge benefits is some of my best friends today, my closest people, are guys that I played soccer with from when I was like 6 until 13. Like those are still some of my best buddies, right? And so when you're going through a season and you're grinding together, right, you have a bond. And so we have a bond with a lot of players who are now all over the world. And so obviously you stay connected a little closer to some rather than others, but it's so easy to, hit up somebody like John and say, hey, great job at what's been going on. Love to talk to you a little bit. And I think the other thing is, I'm sure you guys have found with Austin and even through your work, is most soccer players are just good people, right? And they're willing to do an interview, willing to speak, willing to grow the game. And so, for us, it's nice to be able to call up old friends and teammates and talk to them and ask them a few questions, because they know, right, we're doing it to just grow the game and help younger generations have more success. So but John's a great guy, and I actually really like the Austin roster, because there's a lot of good people on that roster in the coaching staff and in the team that I've been around and have a lot of respect for. So I don't think he'll be the last person from the team we speak to.
Absolutely. And his story is incredible to see, right? I mean, he is a guy that was at probably some points like just making the roster at Atlanta United. Now he's become more experienced, and his mentality is to just always get better. How have you seen him step up as a leader on this Austin FC team, besides the fact that he's scoring these ridiculous goals from outside back?
I'll take that. I think, one of the main points that we spoke with John about was just, the factor of resilience, right? Of perseverance, of understanding what tough times are like and how you can use that, for your experience as you get older, especially if you're able to get through those moments. And I truly believe that, Michael says it all the time, that leaders are never born, they're always bred. And within those moments, you're able to understand as a player, the experiences that you go through really, truly factor into the shape or type of leader that you will be on the field. And we use ourselves for examples of Michael and I. I was never a rah person or someone that was going to build up the locker room, but I was more of a person that wanted to lead by action, lead by example, and always wanted to be the line leader in kindergarten. And I kind of carried that over into my playing career, right? Not necessarily telling everyone what to do or how to do it, but just wanting to be that prime example of the younger generations to follow. And I think John was a young kid that came in and really took all of that in, right? You learn from the guys who have been there for a really long time, and you watch them very closely. And I can use that within my personal experience, and I'm sure Michael can as well. And you learn from those little details and those little things that have created such long careers for those particular players. And I believe John was a prime example of that. When he came in, even though he was going through tough times, he was able to still learn from some of the greats, right? And from some guys who have been doing it for so long, and some of them still do it, some of us don't. But he was able to really take it all in, and now able to use it within the environment and within the place that he's in right now. And that's and that just gets passed down to generation, and that's what it's all about, right? Those for me, right? You look at rookies, especially as a veteran, and you look at the rookies that come in, then you say, okay, if this guy is able to go through tough moments or the trials and tribulations of what he has to go to get the opportunity to play, he'll be fine and he'll be great. And John was the prime example of that. You knew that he was going to be a great pro as long as he got that opportunity, because he understood the ins and outs, the rights, the wrongs. He understood of what we call the 24/7 athlete mindset.
Yeah. It's kind of like the putting the work and preparation in for like when your name's called, like you're ready to go. It's been great to see the club. As I mentioned earlier, not even 2 years into Austin. And it's just, I mean, from a fan lens, from, obviously Nico and I don't play professionally, but it's just been cool to see what this club being here and like the presence it's had in Austin and on the community And as both of y'all alluded to, just the mix of players and just how like great they are with like the fans and just across the board, just like good human beings. Everybody we've had on the pod, everyone I've met from the team, it just top to bottom, it's a great organization.
Yeah. And obviously the issues and the struggles of becoming a professional are going to be a lot different, obviously, than a lot of the youth players that are going to come through your program. Can you highlight some of the issues that you see are common, let's say between the ages of 15 to 25? What are they struggling with? What are some of the common things that you typically talk to them about and help them with?
I think that confidence is always the number one issue, or not issue, but common factor. And, it's such a broad ranging topic, right? And getting cut from teams, going through bad periods in a game, going through bad periods in a season, in between games, and how to deal with those things, right? It's a mindset thing of how do you bounce back from mistakes and the resiliency, both in game and, throughout the longevity of a season. And the amazing thing is it doesn't matter if you're 12 or 14 or if you're 28 and a pro for 6 years, you still go through the same things. And John's a great example, right? He finally got his chance in Atlanta United. I think his third year as a pro, maybe fourth, and played like 20 games or something and had a really good season. And then that next offseason gets traded. And, for him, I'm sure he's looking at like, you got to be kidding me. Finally got my chance, did well, right? And now I'm going to a brand new team. I don't know what to expect. What's going on, right? And to your point earlier of like, let 1 equal 1 and 2 equal 2, right? It was like, okay, don't analyze and dissect the whys behind it. Look at the new opportunity and what I can do with this new opportunity, and that's what he's done. But it's the same thing of kind of being cut from a team when you're 14 or 12, right? And you're okay. Yes, disappointed, right? But okay, now I've got a new opportunity with a new team, right? And how to use that for motivation rather than for it to bring you down and drag your confidence out of you. So definitely confidence and overcoming obstacles is probably number one. When we're talking to kids. I don't know, Greg, after that.
Yeah. I feel, really helping them focus on what they can control. And I think that goes to your point as well of understanding, like you said. I always tell kids, it's make it be plan A, plan A, plan A, plan A, plan A. There's always going to be a plan B, right, in your back pocket, but everything that you can do towards that plan A, that's got to be the mindset, right? And controlling every factor that goes within that plan A is key to hopefully providing that success for each and every individual. And not focusing on the uncontrollables, whether, like you said, why am I not getting playing time? Why does this person not like me? If I do this, will it affect me there? Right? There's so many uncontrollables that all of us go through, even as pros, right? There's so many things that you just cannot control. You can't control if you're going to get traded. You can't control if you get dropped. You can't control if you get injured. There's all of these different things, but what is going to be the mindset when you are injured? What is going to be the mindset when you aren't getting playing time? And that for me is the most gratifying thing. And what we do with Beyond Goals mentoring is because each and every one of us has gone, especially as a pro, we went through those same exact things, right? Of getting released, just like John, of, not making the team or getting traded or going through a major injury, right? And we can help these young kids, especially, I think, like you said, from the ages of 15 to 25, but it doesn't matter necessarily what age, but helping them understand that failure will be a part of their trajectory. It's never a linear, right? The line it just never goes straight up. There are tons of hurdles and obstacles and things that they will go through. But what are still your controllables? What is your reaction on each and every one of those factors? Will essentially, play a huge role in how far you get. And do you fold at certain moments like that, or do you have, like what Parky said, the growth mindset to continue and battle through those things and gain that sense of resilience and perseverance. And like we said, John is a prime example of that.
Yeah, Greg, you were just saying, failure, mistakes, like those things are a part of life. Like we wish we could say it's just like start at the bottom and it's just like an upward slope, but it's not that way, whether you play soccer, you're in your 9 to 5, entrepreneur, how do you tangibly equip y'all's clients with, to handle situations where they have made mistakes, and they may be in their head, like, hey guy, hey, maybe try this or try that. Like, what are like 1 or 2 things that y'all equip them with when they are in those situations?
I think the first thing that I love to equip them with is not expecting perfection. I think that we have a tendency to always want to be perfect, right? To play the perfect game, to be the perfect student, to get the perfect grades, right? And we always want this utopia feeling. And I talk about the mental curve and trying to avoid the highs and lows of a roller coaster, right? And so when things are going well, right, the aim is not to be on top of the mountain, right? It's to be above the baseline, enjoy when things are going well, and be happy and be excited and celebrate things, right? But not so much where you're on the cloud 9 and nothing will ever take you down and I'm going to be here forever type mentality, right? Because people and the players that are like that, when things go wrong or if things go poorly or something bad happens, they ride the roller coaster and hit the bottom. And that's what we want to avoid, right? Because when you're at the bottom, you lose confidence. It's tough to get back up. You ask yourself, why me? Why this? Why now? Right? Rather than focused on like, okay, how do I get back up? And so number 1 is stop trying to be perfect, right? And you don't even want to play a soccer game perfect because the game of soccer is a game of mistakes. And like Greg says that all the time. And it's like, if you played a perfect game, I'll say that, well, you didn't try and take anybody one-on-one. You didn't try and shoot. You didn't try and make any, difficult passes. Right? You must have just played the simple pass every single time, right? And you didn't challenge yourself. So number 1 is stop trying to be perfect, right? Expect and plan on making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You want to make mistakes. That's how we grow. So that would be first and foremost every time for me.
Yeah, I think, for me, Michael always says something is that, life is not fair. We say it to our kids all the time, right? Life is never fair. It isn't. And, what you do in those moments and how you react off those moments when life isn't fair, essentially is what, shows the person that you truly are. And one thing that I speak to a lot with the players that we work with, and even the teams is, in those moments, what is your outlet, right? Us as soccer players, right? I mean, we can go and ask Clint Dempsey what his favorite thing to do beyond soccer, and he might say he likes fishing more than he likes soccer. And fishing was his way to get away, right? It was his outlet, right? And in my personal career, it was journaling, it was writing. Writing is my second passion. But it was my outlet. It was my way to get away mentally from the game and not put that pure focus into trying to be just perfect for the game of soccer, right? There has to always be this second hobby and passion that kind of helps us get through certain moments, whether it is a moment of adversity or even whether it is like a high moment, like Michael said. So I think creating an outlet for each and every player, I think when you put your mind in and you kind of create overkill for the brain of just thinking, overanalyzing your performance or overanalyzing what you have to do to be successful, and you kind of get away of other things that are important within your life. And I think it's all about creating that balance.
There's an example of a player at Austin FC who made a mistake recently. He made a pass back to the other team against St. Louis. They scored. And just by doing some research, I just went onto his Instagram page to see what kind of feedback the fans were providing him. And it was pretty intense. People wanting him to leave the club, leaving pretty nasty comments, right? I think as a defender, you're under a lot of pressure on social media because if you make one mistake, it could lead to a goal. what advice can you give to players that are having to deal with some kind of social media issue where there's kind of a magnifying glass on that mistake, right?
Yeah, I'll take that one because I think I played in Mexico for quite some time, and I can be honest and say I received even death threats of bad games that I played, whether playing in clubs that I did, because obviously you're losing a lot of money for people who are making bets or whatever it may be, right? There's all types of different kinds of people out there in the world. What you do in those situations, even as a young player. I think Michael says it best, and I'll steal it from Michael. And he says, only take criticism from people you would take advice from, and that's that has to be the mentality that you have to go by, especially playing at that level. So if anyone is behind a keyboard and says something that at the end of the day you wouldn't take advice from them, then it should mean absolutely nothing. Should just go through one ear and right out of the other. But if there are moments to where a mentor or to where a coach or to where someone really wants to see you succeed and see you do better, and you're able to take that constructive criticism and advice from them, then it's perfectly fine. But there's always going to be more people to criticize rather than to praise us, right? And that, I think that does, in terms of creating sometimes self-doubt and going through those bouts of confidence within the professional environment, you just have to find that balance of understanding those key phrases.
Yeah, and I think that the negative voices are always louder than the positive ones, right? And that's where you have to lean into your teammates, lean into your close ones, and your mentors, and hear what they're saying louder than maybe the masses out there that are just a little bit louder. So, no doubt that's a tough one to come back from, because unfortunately it made its rounds on social media and everybody saw it, and it's publicized, obviously, playing in Major League Soccer, but that's a test of resiliency for sure. And for Kip, that'll be a tough one to come back from. I hope that he's gets another opportunity here and is able to bounce back from it, and go on to have a really great career, and hopefully one day can show rookies and laugh about it. But that'll be the challenge from here for sure.
What do both of you? I'll let Mike take this one. What do you believe has changed the most as we talk about the mental side of the game and social media? What's changed the most about y'all's approach to helping your clients prepare for their next chapter in their career? Do you currently have any clients that are kind of in the phase that y'all are in, where they're maybe thinking about retirement or recently retired, and kind of helping them apply the skills that they've had for, 10, however many years that they played in the league?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, we've got friends obviously that are at that age. Nobody that we mentor. We do mentor a couple of younger professionals, but nobody on the down side of their career. But it's a tough navigation. Anytime you're switching careers or doing something different, right? And you're entering the unknown a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we had a former teammate go through a really tough time where it's like, do you stay in the game, or do you do something completely different and get out of the game, right? And kind of start fresh and start anew, right? But you're not throwing away, but putting away all the experience that you've had for the past 20, 30, 40 years, however long it's been that you've been in soccer, right? And that's difficult, right? And figuring out where to start. And for us, it was like how to stay involved in the game that we love without doing the coaching trail, because the coaches, it's a difficult profession, and it's a grind. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. And for me, it was like I wanted to put the family first and didn't want to go down that route, even though like I'd love to coach kids at some point and give back the knowledge that I've learned. But for right now, it's just not for me, right? So how to stay involved and stay in the game, because I wanted to at some capacity. So this seemed like a good fit for us, or for me, but it's a challenge no matter who you are or what you're doing to change careers or to change avenues and start something fresh, right? But I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad we kind of took that step of like, hey, let's just go for it and see where we can go, right? And we still don't have everything figured out, right? We don't know where we're going to be in 10 years, what the grand plan is, right? We're taking it kind of by day, month by month, year by year, and seeing how can we grow it. Can we get other former players involved at some point? Can we, create a bigger thing where we're working with academies throughout the country? Who knows? And I think that's been helpful for us. We haven't said, okay, we need to have this all figured out right now, right? And if that's the case, sometimes you never jump in. It's like, okay, let's just jump in, get our feet wet, and we'll see where it takes us. And that's kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah, it kind of taps back into that notion of like perfectionism, like wanting everything to be perfect, wanting to have the perfect game, wanting to have the perfect new company, coming out the gate hot. Like that's kind of Nico and I's story too. I mean, I think we're similar a little bit in that regard. But it's like, you just got to put yourself out there and then just like learn on the fly. And as long as you know your why, I think everything else just follows suit. So Greg, do you want to hop in on this one?
I absolutely love that you just said that phrase at the very end, because I ask kids that all the time. And I think that's probably, Nico, what you said. What's one of the main conversations that we have with kids that, probably in my opinion, the older kids, is to find their why. Find their why of what they do, what's their reason, right? Or why they do what they do and what's their reason. Because you have so many kids and even sometimes parents, right? That say, okay, my kid has to be a pro. Okay, I have to be a pro. I have to be a pro. I have to be a pro. And they forget why they started playing soccer in the first place. And I always tell a lot of kids that I speak to is, one of my main objectives before every single major game, and I mean, every game was a major one, but every game that I played was just to remind myself, right before the first whistle blew, was to kind of, visualize myself being a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid kicking the ball in my backyard or kicking the ball against the wall, because that's what made me the happiest, right? Those were my happiest moments. And that was my why. I played the game for so long and was very fortunate to do so at a high level, but my why was because I had the absolute love, passion, desire to play the game. And it's so important for people to find their why in everything that they do, and that can get lost within the youth environment in today's world. Especially within youth soccer, because I think a lot of these kids, they don't realize that the percentage is so small to make it. And I think that, it's always great to dream big, but, like you guys mentioned as well, is how can you use that power of now, of what they have directly right in front of them, which is a great book to read by Eckhart Tolle as well. The power of now and understanding what's right in front of you and how you can make the most of it in that situation. And then also finding your why that goes along with it.
So you guys have gotten exposure to a lot of probably phenomenal young players. Who sticks out right now at the moment that does have potential to be a future superstar coming through your program?
Noah Cobb right now is probably one of the talented players that we speak with. And we don't work with them weekly or anything, right? And that's where we kind of meet our clients, right? It's what works for you. How can we help you, right? We don't have a set program of like, hey, this is exactly what we're going to go through. This is exactly what we'll talk about in meeting 1 and meeting 2 and 4 and whatever. It's kind of, what are you struggling with? What can we help you with? What are you really good at? And how can we help you get even better at it? And those types of things. And otherwise, it's just little check-ins to see how they're doing and kind of be a friend. And Noah's a pro now and doing really well and made his Major League Soccer debut. And I think he's going to have a really good career ahead of him. But they lost 6-1 in his MLS debut to Columbus. And so, I texted him afterwards. I said, hopefully, in 15 years, you'll be able to have a laugh about it, right? I know that you can't laugh about it right now because it's obviously disappointing, right? But, take the positives from it, bounce back, that type of thing. I think it's good for younger athletes to know, right? We don't want to view, I think, mental health and going through and talking to us as like, oh, we're in a bad place, right? Like we can have these conversations when you're in a good place, right? You don't have to be in a bad place to talk to somebody about something, right? Why let it get bad before you start talking to somebody? Right? You can continue to work on things. You know, we talk about working on your strengths and improving your strengths, right? And not just your weaknesses. So we want to get away from that stigma of like, hey, you know, if we're working with you, it must mean you're in a bad place. And that's not always the case. And I think the professional athletes are a good example of that.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I'd go ahead.
Oh, no. Just like tacking on like how Mike was mentioning earlier, just like that baseline, not getting too high and not getting too low. You know, I think that's why therapy is great too for athletes, for anyone, you know, because it's like you go through every season, every stage, you're really high, you're really low. But yeah, Mike, to your point, it's just like keeping that baseline, and whether you had a bad game or you're going through a great season, like it just kind of helps you stay level-minded.
Most definitely. Yeah, we work with a lot of different players, from all over the States and some in different parts of the world. And so I guess that's a hard question to answer, because I believe that a lot of the players that we work with, hopefully some of them will be able to create something for themselves in the future. But that's why we created what we did, because we understood the ins and outs, the rights, the wrongs, the do's, the don'ts of every single phase that they will be going through. We've been in all of their shoes before. And so one major thing for me, and I always tell parents, with a lot of the kids that we work with, is that, we just want to make sure that once these kids, if they ever do have that opportunity to make something out of soccer, then they will be able to look back and see and say to themselves, okay, these two guys, or whoever helps us out in the future, or whoever will be a part of what we do. These guys went through that. They experienced having the same opportunities, and how did they create that consistency? How did they create that long-term commitment? How did they get through each and every phase? And I think there's a lot of players that I could probably call out and choose their name, but at the end of the day, you really, really never know which kid is truly going to break through. But you just hope that they have all the right and vital key components that they need beyond the God-given talent that they have at their feet to help them through those moments.
As we kind of asked you about like the players that y'all see right now that have that potential in each of y'all's own lives. Obviously, this is a new venture for you guys, but how do y'all define success?
Yeah, how do we define success of what we do?
I mean, that it can be however it looks for you, Greg, personally, professionally. Yeah.
For sure. I define success on a message that I get from a parent or a message I get from a player, whether it's right after speaking with them, whether it's right after a game that they play, sometimes whether it's right after a bad game that they play. And you get a message on your phone at any given point in time, whether it's from a 15-year-old boy or an 18-year-old girl that we work with. It's saying, thank you for giving me these exercises, or thank you for giving me these strategies to get through this moment. Or it's from a parent right after the conversation saying, thank you so much. My son or daughter has come up from the basement or come downstairs, and their face is glowing right now. They shared everything you guys spoke to them about, of understanding the value of playing under pressure, or understanding how to use and implement their strengths at all times. And it just gives them a better mindset to view and look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, I can do this, or okay, this is me as a player, right? And there's so much value in that. One thing that I can say Mike and I were very good at, I think even when we built the community of what Atlanta United is today, right? I believe Atlanta United had the greatest project of all, but the most important, in my opinion, the most important asset of every organization is its players that are within. And I think every single player that we had within those first 2 years created what Atlanta United is today. And Atlanta United will always be a powerhouse, but because of all of us, we were so involved within the community, whether it was with the Humane Society, whether it was motivationally speaking at middle schools and high schools, whether it was just building a community, right? And that's the best thing about being in Atlanta. I mean, I retired here. I wish Michael was here, and I know he's in Columbus. But even every time Michael comes back, there's still so many people that recognize us on the streets every single day. And it's not necessarily because of the success that we had within the team. I know that's a huge part of it, but it's because of the types of people that we were, because of the personalities and the characters and the leaders that we were within the community. And I think that is now just carried over, into what we do, right? And we were so passionate about that as players, to be involved in the community, because that's such an important piece, to use your platform in that way as well. And now we just get to continue to do that, and it carries over within Beyond Goals to still try and change the game or give back to the game that ultimately gave so much to us as players and as people.
Success is something, and Greg just mentioned, what success is for Beyond Goals, right? But success for all of us and in what we're doing is so important to know, right? And what is success, and how do you define it for what you're doing and what you're going through, right? And it's kind of goes towards goals and goal setting and writing down goals. And we just talked to Brandon Vasquez about something similar. And how do you measure success, right? Can you have a good game without scoring? And Brandon Vasquez is a striker in Major League Soccer. He gets paid a lot of money to score goals, and so sometimes strikers in particular can come off a performance and simply judge off, did you score goals today? And Brandon made it pretty clear that he can have a great game without scoring a goal, and that's important to know, right? So that when you're trying to figure out afterwards, like, did I have a good game, right? Was I successful, right? Well, yeah, I was successful because I helped the team win, and I had a great game, but I didn't score any goals, right? So, defining that is important for sure.
What's the end goal with Beyond Goals mentoring? What's kind of your vision? How do you foresee this growing?
Yeah, great question. And I don't know we for sure know yet. And I'll let Greg give his thoughts in a second, but right now we're expanding our relationship with Atlanta United Academy and working closely with their athletes. And it could be something in the future where we expand and continue to bring on other former athletes from different teams, and making sure that there's a setting within at least every MLS academy. Obviously, there's so many other academies out there, right? And but starting with that, right? Can we at least help them focus a little bit on the stuff that we've been talking about for the past hour, and helping their athletes be ready to turn pro when they're ready, or be able to go to college and have success, and help them be ready for life after soccer if they don't make it. And so I don't know if every academy is set up in a way to do that right now. And whether that's with Beyond Goals or not, it's important, right? We want to see these athletes have success. And, I'm a big proponent of sports psychologists, and I think that they're fantastic. And I had one in high school, and I thought it was awesome. What we do is we bring something a little bit different, right? We don't have the exact science that they do, and the knowledge of some of that stuff, but sometimes we're able to connect with athletes a little bit better because we've been in their shoes. We've had the success on a sporting level, and we know what it takes to get there and have success on that. And so, that's what we lean into in terms of our messaging. And so, I don't know, maybe one day grow it and have athletes all over or former players, men and women all over the country, trying to deliver their message to athletes, and just getting a broader sense of kind of, mentorship from former athletes to current athletes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think I'll still Ronaldo's. I believe Ronaldo said at one point in time where he was at the peak of his career, and he said, "I don't remember all the accolades that I've already stacked up to my name. I don't think about how many more I'll add to my name in the future. The only thing I focus on is what I have in front of me today, and how I can be better than everybody in front of me today." And that for me, just he lives in that power of now. He understands that what he has in front of him, and how can he do the little bit of extra to be better, right? And that's what Mike and I try and do every single day. Whether it's 1,001 different ideas that we come up with every single day. How can we implement this? How can we start this? But how can we gel all of those things together to continue to grow and help the game as much as possible, right? We obviously know that our knowledge and wisdom comes of I truly believe of tremendous value, but at the same time we created this to give back and to help kids that hopefully have that opportunity that we had at one point. And so one major thing is that we obviously love working with every single player that we have today, but I would say one end goal, I think that or maybe a short term and could be a midterm, long term goal, but is to help players from different backgrounds, maybe from lower income communities, or maybe from kids that don't have access to maybe using our wisdom and knowledge to help them, and maybe creating sponsors that have that give these kids access to have someone in their corner, to have someone to guide them through. And that's something that Mike and I have spoken about a lot, is that a lot of the kids that we work with, most of them, it's a very small percentage of the world that can sometimes afford services that like the two of us offer. And how can we broaden that and help kids along with other organizations or other people that can say, okay, this can be needed in these kids' lives as well. And I think we can all be very honest and say some of the most talented kids that we played with and some of the best pros that we played with came from very tough backgrounds, right? And so that's one thing that Mike and I are extremely passionate about, and things that we want to implement within our program is how can we hit those communities as well, and help those kids that if one day they have the opportunity to do something with soccer, they had the right people in their corner and the right support and the right mentors that gave them the right knowledge and wisdom that they could use and implement within their game as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think sky's the limit for you guys. Y'all obviously have a lot of experience, and just through our conversation today, I can just tell that you guys value relationships, and I think that's key for obviously what you're trying to do. Whether it's helping other MLS clubs or helping underserved communities and the youth there. So yeah, sky's the limit for you guys. We're gonna wind down here, but wanted to get y'all's thoughts on all of these celebrity athlete investors that are buying into MLS clubs like Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson, Kevin Durant. Do we have any thoughts on this?
I'd like to get the information. I believe, when was the league inaugurated? 1994? Was that when it was 96? And I believe, how much was it to buy an MLS franchise? Was it like $20 million, I believe, to purchase an MLS franchise? I don't know what the number is right now, but that just goes to show, I'm sure it's probably over $250, $300 million to acquire an MLS team. So that just goes to show the growth of the sport, right? And I think that's what I wanted to get out of that, is just to say how big soccer is within the United States right now and within North America. And we are able to compete with anyone and everyone now. And I think that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of growing our youth. And I think that's the most important thing in life is, in the life that we live, how can we kind of help that next generation that's following in our footsteps, because they're the ones that have to do the same thing once we're gone. So I'm a huge believer in that, and that I think that's what these celebrities are thinking, right? How can they continuously grow a game that is the most popular game in the whole entire world?
Yeah, I think it's great for the league. It's great for the overall ecosystem of everything, and it's still got so much growth. There's so, I mean, you all know, but it's just so big when you look at these transfer fees and transfer values of players out there, right? And the US market is untapped. And that's why you see like all these foreign clubs trying to come over here and create relationships and have like soccer camps in the summer and all these things, because they know it's untapped and they know that it will explode eventually, and they all want a piece of it.
With these investors, how do you think it's going to impact the culture of the game? Is it going to eventually lead to promotion relegation as more money comes in, more opportunities that way? What are your thoughts there?
It'll be interesting to see where the league goes. I don't know if we'll ever get to promotion relegation in my lifetime, just because these owners that are now paying 400, 500, 600 million to enter the league are not going to want to then possibly a year later be playing in a second division. So I don't, as much as I'd love to see it, I don't think we will, at least at MLS level. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with the relationship with the Mexican League. They could create a pro rel with them, and it's not so much like a first division, second division, but it's kind of just like an A and a B or an A and an A minus type thing. I don't know what they want to do, but they're obviously trying to create relationship with Liga MX through this Leagues Cup tournament they've got in the middle of this MLS season, right? They know how many eyeballs are watching the Mexican League, even from the US. And so it'll be interesting to see how that partnership develops.
Absolutely. So this next segment,
it's super fun.
is rapid fire. You guys can decide who wants to go first, but we're just going to ask you a couple questions, and the first thing that comes to your mind, we just want you to fire it out. So,
all right,
I'll let the captain go first.
Okay, perfect. Favorite city you've played in?
Go ahead.
I'll go first. Lisbon.
Ooh, I don't know. I was only focused on MLS. Yeah, I love Copenhagen. But MLS wise, favorite city to play in, Kansas City. I really like going to Kansas City. They're just a beautiful stadium, easy city to get around. So Kansas City was up there for me.
Okay. Recent Netflix or Hulu binge?
Neither of those, but Ted Lasso.
Oh my gosh. I didn't want to be like,
Classic.
obvious, but I was like, what are your thoughts and feels? I love Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the season though.
I
What's his name? Zavo?
Zava.
Yeah, Zava.
Which is Zlatan, pretty much.
Totally. It's totally based on Zlatan.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's my go-to right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Ted Lasso it's probably one of the best shows on television.
Yellowstone is out there as well. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just started Shrinking on Apple TV with Jason. Yeah, I'm on episode 4. It's good. I like Harrison Ford, in that element. Usually seems so serious. He's kind of like, I like seeing that side of him. Okay, one food you can't live without.
I'm going to go same answer.
Pizza?
Yep.
Ooh.
And short behind it for me is sushi.
Oh. I need to know y'all's answer on this. Favorite pizza spot in Atlanta?
Wow.
There's only one answer.
There's so many, right? But I actually go every Friday to a place I believe it's off Terrell Mill, like Vinings area, Smyrna area, Marietta. But it's called Pio Bello. Piubello.
Oh.
I highly recommend. It's just straight New York pizza, like just greasy, thin sliced. Crust is amazing. That's my favorite pizza here.
Ooh.
Yeah, we found a local one up in the suburbs as well called Pizzeria Luca. Just like it's not a chain; it's just a one family restaurant. It's fantastic.
Public seating in Alpharetta, Pizzeria Luca, also amazing. My middle son's name is Anthony Luca. So we used to go there when I lived in Marietta side. Okay. So yeah.
And what was the correct answer?
I mean, y'all may call me basic, but Antico. I like the Italian. I mean, I like New York style too, but Antico
I'm going there for my son's birthday in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Well, yeah. Have a slice for me. I missed it. I was back there a couple weeks ago and didn't get a chance to get over there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to try y'all's recommendations out.
Favorite sport to watch?
NFL.
I'm gonna go basketball.
Do we have teams for either?
I'm a Mavs fan.
Okay.
All right.
And no. Football is all fantasy football based, so no favorite team.
This could be go across any sport, but what was your favorite match like you've ever watched?
I mean, probably one of the most intense matches that I've ever seen was probably this last final of the World Cup. I mean, I just showed the beautiful game. I mean, even though not being there, and I mean, kudos to all those people who congrats to all those people who got to experience that live. But just even in my, condo living room with my kids, everyone just going absolutely insane. Every goal and everything that happened within that game was unbelievable. So I'll stick with that one.
I'm going to say, I grew up a huge Red Sox fan, huge baseball fan. So I'm going with probably any of the Red Sox games back in 2000. What year was it they won the World Series finally? Was it 2006 or 7? Yeah, Big Papi era for sure. When they came back against the Yankees from 3-0 down, that was it for me. One of my favorite athletes was Kobe Bryant. Actually I've learned even more about him since he passed, and what a tremendous athlete and what a mindset, what an absolute warrior he was. Holy smokes. So he's definitely way up there for me.
I'm going to go Pele. My mentors who took me to Brazil at the age of 12 were best friends with him. So, I think just kind of learning from the greats from a very young age was pretty awesome.
Wow.
But I'll say between Ronaldo and Messi, I'm Team Messi.
I'm also Team Messi.
Me as well.
Me for.
Favorite quote you live by, and bonus points if you have it tattooed somewhere. Because
literally every guest we've asked, which we've had 5 or 6 on, they're literally like, "Yep," and I have it tattooed on me. I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess since you guys said that, I have my first tattoo is right here. I'm not going to tell the people who are watching how old I was when I got it.
Yeah.
But it's in Portuguese and it means "se Deus quiser," and it means God willing. So that was my very first tattoo, and kind of lived by that. It's a major phrase everyone says in Portugal or even in Brazil, and that's where I kind of grew up my youth life. They'll say we'll see you tomorrow, and they say "se Deus quiser," God willing. I'll only see you tomorrow if God wants us to see you tomorrow. So everything that kind of happened throughout my career, it was kind of one of it was a phrase to live by.
I have 0 tattoos. Fun fact. One of the few soccer players out there with 0 tattoos. So
Mike should get like a temporary tattoo. Like, here's my quote.
But no specific quote. My favorite mentoring quote has to do with confidence, though, and it's confidence isn't lacking fear. It's the ability to perform when fear is present. And I love that because it just naturalizes like the nervousness and having a little bit of fear. Like it's okay to have that. It's normal, right? But the confidence is the ability to overcome that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. What should be Austin's next professional sports team? Gosh,
I would say basketball. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas. So, I mean, all Dallas teams I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah. I'm like, how did they, who is it? It has like 2 sports teams. I'm like, we need another team.
Yeah. Yeah. Houston has some sports teams. San Antonio has some sports teams, right?
Yep.
But I mean,
stick with soccer. It's working. Get a women's team.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Because who did they have like 2 years ago? They did something. Was it U.S. women's, or was it last year?
We've hosted the U.S. Women's National Team, and we have a huge crowd behind that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I mean, Austin is a new cool city, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was a kid, it wasn't, the coolest city to be in Texas. It is a new cool city.
I feel like the like OG Austinites would beg to differ, but yeah, I mean, on the outside looking in, being a newbie myself, I feel like it's trending right now.
Yes.
I'm disappointed I retired before Austin became an MLS team.
Guess you'll just have to come on down to Q2 for a game one of these days. Okay. Last couple questions. Bucket list trip.
Australia.
Gosh, I was going to say the same exact thing. Yeah.
I've also never been to Hawaii. That's on the bucket list. But if I were to choose one, I'm going to Australia first.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been to so many different places in the world, and I'm sure Mike has as well, but Australia is definitely on the list.
For sure. And then favorite book or the most recent book you've read?
I'll go first. Favorite book is The Alchemist. I tell every single player that I work with to read that. I read it once a year as a pro. And I mean, I have like notes of like highlights that I wrote down or that I kind of just jotted down, like how they resonated with me and how they sat with me. I mean, obviously it's a spiritual book, but at the same time, it's a great book to read if you're seeking something. So, Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
The most recent book I've read is Viola Davis's autobiography, and she's from Rhode Island, as am I, and she came up in the most of humble backgrounds. Incredible story. So that was really powerful book.
Awesome.
Love it. That ends the rapid fire questions. So you're off the hook now. But appreciate you guys coming on and chatting with us. I know our listeners are going to enjoy this interview and hearing about your story. As always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And be sure to follow us on social at TrainATX. Greg and Mike, let our listeners know where they can follow you.
We are at beyondgoalsmentoring.com, Beyond Goals Mentoring on YouTube, or is it just Beyond Goals on YouTube?
I Googled
Beyond Goals Mentoring.
Yeah, that's what I Googled.
Yeah. Beyond Goals Mentoring on Instagram. I believe it's BG Mentoring on Facebook, and I'm not even sure what it is on Twitter. That's one thing that we, us as players, we have no idea how to work. That's why we have other people help us within that area, because like I said, we just kick the ball for a living for so long. So
I was waiting on the TikTok handle, I'm just kidding.
Haven't got there yet.
Yeah, you're like, we'll get there one of these days.
I think we are on there. I'm just not sure what our what
are we? I don't know.
What your lane is.
We've got some amazing people helping us in that regard, because it's not Greg and I's forte.
Yeah. Well, thank you both again. Seriously, I appreciate the time this afternoon. And like Nico said, just the conversation. I know that so many of our viewers and listeners are going to benefit from this. And hopefully if any of them need some mentors of their own, they now know how to reach you and have a little bit more of insight as to how you guys kind of navigate things. So again, appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks again for having us, and good luck with what you guys have going there.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much. Awesome. Bye, guys.